Hello and welcome everybody, I'm Barbarian, and this is of course Through the Darkest of Time, where we are in the second half. This is chapter number 3, we are during World War number 2. So this map is not entirely correct anymore. Of course, France is already being occupied by Germany, and Germany is preparing, I believe, for the war against Yugoslavia, for the occupation of Yugoslavia, and for the war against Soviet Russia, against the Soviet Union. Now, I've looked a lot at this map, and I'm not entirely sure. I think both Frozen Lightning, which essentially is against the Wunderwaffe, the Vergeltungswaffe 1 und 2, so V2 and V1, I think that is quite an interesting mission, of course, because it also costs a lot of lives. I don't think that Voice of Freedom is all that interesting. I personally don't think it is all that interesting to, you know, go out there and broadcast a different opinion. I wouldn't know how you would get out of this, to be honest, in an historical context. And then over here we have Safe Passage, also quite interesting to rescue a group of Jewish children, bring them to the coast where they can be picked up by a ship towards England. I'm not sure if I want to do Frozen Lightning yet or Safe Passage. The positive message is that we can do either if we focus on getting the uniforms, the Wehrmacht uniforms that you can see right there. We need 3 uniforms for any mission anyway, and then it differs with the truck and the critical information. Either way, we have to start by simply making sure that, you know, we meet some people and make sure that those people are trustworthy. I think you can just do that, sure. Doesn't even help. Seriously? There you go, Gustl Klein. I should have done it from the very beginning, I suppose, but that's fair enough. This one will also unlock something. We need a fairly conservative man. And he doesn't even work, but everybody else is even worse, seeing as they just straight up go against it. That's fine. Let's meet a businessman. He's good enough, I think. Meet a former unionist, buy paper. Why don't we meet a friend here? Because this will ultimately lead towards the workshop. We do have 3 paint buckets. We have 1 club. Oh my, where did that come from? Then we have 3 supplies. Oh, that's interesting. We start with a lot of money, and we start with things that I have legitimately never seen before, the club and the supplies here, but let's just see how it goes. 20th of June 1941. This is actually... what was the exact date? Was it July? I think it was like the 6th of July when Operation Barbarossa started the invasion of the Soviet Union. So this is what we will definitely see here in this chapter. But let's see where it goes. 10 people are still supporting us. 3 mark were donated to us. Turns out she hates the Nazis even more than back then. When we offer her an opportunity to do something against it, she is all for it. Johanna, please, don't be seen in a mission like this. Come on now. With a well-connected employee of the government, are you serious? I'm gonna enforce you. Somebody wrote a comment on how the enforce and hiding option works, and that, for example, if guards show up, I probably shouldn't enforce, and that's a really good point. I think I will no longer do that. But honestly, I still can't say that I fully understand what means what. The game mechanic itself is not entirely open to me. Alright, we have another person recruited for the cause. Excellent. We'll find supporters among students and professors for us. I think we're just gonna utilize her immediately. I think some of the cards that we had in the last chapter just went unused, so every card must be chapter specific. I honestly, it's so unclear. There's some mechanics that just aren't really explained. Anyway, I sit on a comfortable chair in the shadow of an old apple tree in the Mannholz Allert garden. Volker and Anne Mannhold are putting food from a basket on the table. Potato salad, fresh bread, and apple pie. Can I help you with anything? Thank you, that's nice of you, Guido, but no, we're almost done. Says Mr. Mannhold. We'll join you in a moment. When the basket is empty, Volker places 2 chairs next to me and they take a seat. What do you say? He asks, pointing at the garden around us. This is wonderful, how did you get it? Wasn't easy, says Mr. Mannhold. Everyone wants an Allert garden right now. There's a long waiting list, but it helps that we have children and of course the fact that Volker is serving. When do you have to return there? Volker is wearing his Wehrmacht uniform. It's the only detail on this day that reminds us of the fact that we are at war. Too soon, he says. Tomorrow. Where are you stationed? Are you still in France? I ask. I'm not going back to France, but to a secret destination. All vacations have been cancelled, says Volker. Something is going on. Do you have any idea what they're planning? You can talk about this later, says Anne. Now we eat. Elsbeth, Klaus, go wash your hands and take a seat wherever you like. Take a seat opposite to Volker. Anne fills the plates with sausage, potato salad, and a piece of fresh bread. Klaus wipes his hands on his pants and joins us. I want more sausage, says Klaus and holds up his plate, from which all sausage is gone already. Don't eat like that, the rest is for our guest. Wait for Mr. Book to finish first, says Volker Mannhold. But I'm hungry now, says Klaus. And have more potato salad, says Anne. See, says Klaus and quickly grabs the remaining piece of sausage. We're having a little break now, says Anne, once we finish our plates. The Gutmanns are coming for coffee and cake. They should be here any minute. You invited those Jews? Asks Klaus. Why? Because they are neighbors, says Anne. Now go and play in the garden. I'll call you when we have cake, I ask Volker. What is happening in France? How are things in France, I ask. For the Wehrmacht, it's easy living. Sure, there's the resistance, yes. There's still the independent part of France with its exiled government, but in the eyes of the Wehrmacht, France has been defeated. Without outside help, it won't go anywhere. How are things in Paris? Well, it's occupied. It is still Paris, sure, but it is dominated by our troops, our police, our secret service. I think back to the beautiful day in Paris I had in the summer of 1936. What does that mean for the city? Clubs play the music the Germans want to listen to, and theaters they perform the plays the Germans want to see, and even the brothels, he looks at his wife. So I have heard, he adds, even the brothels cater to the needs of the German occupiers. What I would like to know is, what is up with his secret destination? Where do they send you to? What is the secret destination? I told you. I don't know. But what do you think? There are rumors. Some say we will attack Russia. On one hand, it makes sense. It's what he always wanted. Hitler hates Russia and the Russians. On the other hand, Germany signed a non-aggression treaty with them. It would open up a war on two fronts, which would be insane if you'd ask me. A couple roughly around the same age as the Mannholds enters the garden, followed by a pale boy of tall stature, whom I estimate to be 15 years old. Oh, it's the Gutmanns, says Volker. Let's continue our conversation later. Sure. For the second time today, we gather around the table. This time Volker and Anne serve apple pie and coffee. The Gutmanns have brought a sweet honey cake. Here, take some, says Mr. Gutmann and hands me a piece. Thank you. Anne sends the children in the garden to play. Get up now, will you, Elias? Go play with Klaus. He's a nice boy, you'll see. Reluctantly, Elias gets up and joins Klaus and Elsbeth. How was the trip, asks Volker. Fine, says Louis Gutmann. It was not fine, disagrees Paula Gutmann. It was hot, it was sticky, and it took ages. I really miss going by car. Get over it, said Louis. At least they still let us use the trains. Won't be long until they ban us from the trains too. Do we know them? The Gutmanns. I'm honestly not quite sure that we know them, at least I don't recognize them. Have we met before? Don't you live on the other side of the street, I ask. I do now, says Anna, before one of the Gutmanns can answer. Louis and Volker used to work together as bookkeepers at Schmidt and Söhne. Where did you live before? I used to have a house in Steglitz, inherited it from my family, but not anymore. In case you haven't guessed it already, we are Jews. We had to leave our own house in 1938 and were forced to move into what they call a Jew apartment. Must have been tough. We swapped a beautiful place against an overcrowded hole so some Aryan can live in our house. My apologies, says Louis Gutmann. My wife tends to exaggerate. We're fine, really. Our apartment is fine as well. It's a rat hole, says Paula. Honestly, it's interesting. I do wonder whether I personally would ever feel safe, you know, if I was part of the persecuted minorities, or any persecuted group really worldwide. If I was ever in a position where I felt safe to speak about my position, you know, and to speak about how I'm arranging myself with it. Of course, she's a bit more, you know, into that than he is. Louis appears to be a bit more afraid to actually say something. I don't know what the relationship between the Mannholds and Louis is, or the Gutmanns is. But anyway, I'm sorry to hear that. Thank you for the sympathy, says Paula. I'm sorry for being like that. I know it's not your fault, but it makes me angry every single day. I hear you, says Volker. I can only try to imagine how I would feel. I guess I would be just as angry as you are. I'm more scared than anything, says Louis. So far we had something they could take from us, but there's nothing left now. The only thing they could still take are our lives. Children yell at each other. Klaus cries of pain and comes running to the table. His nose is bleeding. He hit me, says Klaus and points at Elias, who stands further away, partly hiding behind a tree. Is that true, Elsbeth? Klaus' younger sister had come to the table now too and nods. He just hit me, without reason. I haven't done anything and he hit me. Is that true, Elsbeth? The girl looks at her brother and back to her mother without saying anything. I mean, he's probably lying, but let's have the parents do this. I want to see how the parents function here. I tell you, says Klaus, he's crazy. He just hit me. I asked Elsbeth, says Anna. Is that true, Elsbeth? Did Elias really just hit Klaus without a reason? Elsbeth shakes her head. Keep your mouth shut or you will regret it, yells Klaus. No, she won't. Tell us the truth, Elsbeth. What happened? Klaus said Elias smells bad, said Elsbeth. He said that it was a disgrace that they lived in our street. What else did he say? He said that Elias and his family were vermin, and once he was 18 he would join the SS and kill them. You said what? Volker steps up to his son and slaps him in the face. He turns to the Gutmanns. I'm sorry. I'm really deeply sorry. Please accept my apology and be assured that this is not the way I raised my son. We're leaving, says Louis. I know you mean well, but we can't do this, I'm afraid. These, says Klaus, they are cowards. It's what Jews do. Without a warning, Volker slaps his son in the face a second time. You shut up now. I don't know who you are anymore, yells Volker. For someone that has served in a war, it must be quite difficult to see their son so bloodthirsty, you know, I wonder, like, Volker did not strike me as too friendly when it comes towards the Jews. Maybe he had some resentments even before the Nazis, who knows, it is of course a story that we aren't here to tell, that we don't know, but it has to be difficult to see his son become so fanatic that he goes on and is willing to essentially murder people that you drink coffee with. That he would feel like that. I wonder how it would be, especially when you have seen war itself, how you would react to that, how you would feel about it if you could arrange yourself with it. It's difficult, but that is of course, what the Nazis wanted for the children. They wanted a youth that did not know anything but the cruelty that could be brought towards the people that were inferior, so to speak. You need to educate the boy, or this is no way to talk to grown-ups. I guess. I mean, I'm not really happy with either of these solutions, I gotta tell you. I don't know if it's my place to say anything. It's not his fault, it's the propaganda. They indoctrinate him. Anna and Volker try to convince the Gutmanns to stay, in vain. When the family has left the garden, there's a loud humming coming from the sky. An air raid? But there was no warning, says Anna. I look up and see hundreds, if not thousands of airplanes flying into one direction. There was no warning because these are ours, says Volker. Where are they going? East. Meet an official who might know more about what's happening in the east. Something is happening. Something big. Alright, we didn't lose or gain any morale. Our supporters grew slightly. That's quite nice. We've unlocked more missions, of course. Oh, there you go. Sorry, my bad. It was June when they invaded. Germany invades Soviet Union. Without prior declaration of war, the German Wehrmacht attacks the USSR, which is, of course, quite the peculiar story, because as paranoid as Stalin was, he apparently believed Hitler to an overly large degree, to a degree that was not healthy for him or the Soviet Union, seeing as Hitler was able to invade in 1941 without much resistance, because Stalin himself believed that this was a false alarm. Hungary declares war on the Soviet Union. After alleged air attacks by Soviet aircraft on Hungary, the Hungarian government declares war on the USSR. Finland declares war on the Soviet Union. Finland declares war on the Soviet Union under the pretext that it had been attacked by USSR troops. This, of course, for Finland, not being the racially and fascistic motivated war. It was war, of course. I don't want to make war into a good thing all of a sudden, but it is, really, back in the day, was seen as the second phase of the war that the Soviets started in 1939 during the Winter War to get back the old Finnish territory. Jana Essa looks more and more tired and irritated lately. When we ask if everything's okay, she answers, "It's my boy. He's only 4 years old." Oh yeah, she did have a child, didn't she? But he already knows what air raid sirens sound like, and the worst thing is, I can't change anything. I want him to have a happy childhood, enough food and plenty of friends, and instead I have to teach him what to do in a bombing. Not true that you aren't doing anything. You're here fighting for a better future for his son. This is not the childhood you wished for his son, but he still has you. Better times will come. I do my best, but then I think about what would happen to him if I am killed or arrested. Sit silently for a while. I'm afraid. You have my word. Your child will never be alone. I don't know if this is too comforting, I'll be honest with you. He looks at me and says, thank you. I just hope it will get better soon. Still 4 more years, well. A bit less than 4 more years, I guess. But it will take some time before this nightmare is over. Let's continue onwards with just doing the basic quests here so that we unlock all the missions that we need to unlock. See, I'm looking at this, and we need to write slogans on the wall to even build the workshop. So the way I see this, we will definitely do this. We have the paint already. That is essentially something that we got for free in this very... Ooh, pretty good. We don't have a bike anymore. I guess the club... Oh, the club actually... I'll try it like this, sure. We don't have a bike anymore. I don't know what happened to the bike, but certainly don't have it in our inventory anymore. Smuggle books, convince our supporters, friends. Talk to workers. Contact a social democrat, sure. Dorothea, you should be able to do that. And let's take a look. Oh no, actually, they stick around. So this gives us a donation. We'll find supporters among students and professors for us. We'll speak about our actions with members of his community. Let's get the priest going here, sure. Oh, would you look at that? Wow. Set up a hideout. Oh, I need to set it up now. I kind of... See, now that I know that we can actually use them long term in the next chapters, I feel like I wanna... Yeah, I most certainly feel like I want to save them. Who knows what the... Wait, what? Why can't I pull you in there? Who knows what's gonna happen in the next chapter, you know? In the last chapter. Let's do what we have prepared right here. We lost 1 supporter. 15 people are still supporting us, and we got 4 mark. Right, how did the slogan writing go? Someone panics. I think we need to enforce it. Come on now. Panic attack is over. Right, many people notice, and we, well, Gustav Kleiner thinks he has been seen. No, actually, he has been seen. We need to set up a hideout. Fairly soon, I would say, as well. Johanna Esser meets with a former unionist in Reinickendorf to see if he could be convinced to join the resistance. Someone's getting suspicious. I just... See, I'm looking at this. It could fail, it could just... I'm gonna enforce, I guess. Is enforced a guarantee that works, but also you're guaranteed to be seen? And hide is potentially it fails, but potentially you get it done. I feel like that is it. I feel like enforcing makes it happen 100% of the time, but you will at least be seen. Or worse, of course. And hiding would either abandon it or make it work. Maybe I should stop enforcing that much looking at it, you know? Everybody, I mean, she thinks that she has been seen. Dorothea is not actually certain of this. That's some more morale. Very big chunk of supporters, of course. 7,000 murdered in massacre. German Wehrmacht task forces in the conquered parts of the USSR murdered about 7,000 people in a massacre in Lvov. I don't think that the newspapers would print this. I don't think us knowing about this via the newspapers makes a lot of sense. Am I wrong here? I mean, I don't think they would print that. This doesn't seem right. Of course this did happen, especially early on into war. Of course the cleansings already were incredibly brutal, incredibly quickly as well. But I don't think this would be in a newspaper. I truly wonder how much a person in Germany would know about the actual war during the beginning of the, especially of the Eastern offensive. Now, you know, what I know is that, for example, in the radio they would always announce where the front line would roughly be, but I wonder how much you would actually know of the actual battles and the, you know, encirclements, for example, all that sort of stuff. Certainly this one would not be in newspapers, right? British bomber carries out day attack on Kiel. 48 Royal Air Force bombers attack the shipyards, a Wellington plane crashes. Wages are dropping. The salaries of employees in the German Reich have decreased by about 12% in the last 10 years. A retail merchant in 1931 earned 250 Reichsmark per month. In 1931 he only earned 218 Reichsmark. I feel like this entire thing is very interesting because it teaches us more about the real life situation at the time. Because all of these headlines are in fact truth, but I wonder... It doesn't really reflect how people got their news back in the day, right? Because this certainly wouldn't be, this would not be in the news. I mean, I can't see that being in the news. I might be wrong here, just for the record. I haven't looked up whether, you know, wages are dropping was a big headline in this year or even in this region of the world. I highly doubt it, but either way, I don't think that this is like how the press would have actually written, especially after the Soviet Union, or rather Operation Barbarossa starting. I feel like there would be more propaganda about it. When I arrive at our meeting, the others are reminiscing. Do you guys remember the Summer Olympics? I miss those days. Yeah, they were so long ago. Tell me about it, that summer is a world away. Oh, the nightlife. For a while, the city was the center of the world. So many clubs, music, dancing, people enjoying themselves. And the Nazis were at least pretending to be decent. Nowadays, Berlin seems so sober. Yes, it's such a different place now. I wish there was a way to go back. There's no going back, certainly. Unfortunately, there is no going back, and I'm afraid it will get much worse before it gets better. Alright, we unlocked some stuff here. Here is one of the Wehrmacht missions, okay. So I would have to spread some leaflets, for which I definitely need the workshop. Oh my god, Gustl Kleiner. Okay. Set up a hideout, right? Thanks to our supporter Peter Wormser, we learn about a remote apartment that will make an excellent hiding place. Is this better? I want to definitely do this, but I know that we already have this right here, go into hiding. I'm gonna go with a hideout place. Let's see what it does for us, right? Let's just see what it does for us. I'm gonna put you right here, right? Yeah, we're gonna just do a big swoop of just, you know, getting people to no longer be so visible. So we have one Wehrmacht uniform here. We have some weaponry here. Wait, do we need weaponry? For what would we need the weaponry? We have enough information organized to hold up a delivery. Yeah, okay, this is not correct. In Lichtenberg and try and steal some weapons. Yeah, that was not correct, don't worry about it. I should be able to do this. No, I don't think we can do that at all, my friend. We should buy paper, I guess, but let's just, you know, start, or let's just keep talking to all of these people here. I think that makes a lot of sense, all things considered. Sure. Yeah, we need to get this down. I do wonder what this is, but we will know as soon as possible. Guido Book meets with a former unionist in Wedding to see if he could be convinced to join the resistance, and he says yes. Alright. I don't think this can ever go wrong, so let's just not worry about it. Alright, what is this all about? Rents a small place in Spandau under a false name. Here we can hide fugitives and equipment from the authorities. Alright, I mean, I'll take it. That's pretty good. We must raise Moscow to the ground. Hitler says we must raise Moscow to the ground. We don't want any people left who we'd need to feed during the winter. See, I just feel like he wouldn't say this to the German populace. He would definitely say this because it's warmongering, it shows strength, it shows that we are able and willing to destroy the enemy entirely, but would he really say we just don't want to feed him? I think he would say we have to destroy, you know, the symbol of National Socialism, for example, but maybe I am talking out of my ass, don't even get me wrong there, it's just not entirely certain about this entire thing here. Great Britain and Soviet Union sign assistance agreement. The agreement excludes separate peace and ceasefire negotiations between an opposing party and the German Reich. German troops attack Malta. German Air Force units attack the Mediterranean island Malta, which is an important supply base for British troops in North Africa. This entire topic, of course, you know, the entire aid that the Allies gave to the Soviet Union was huge in keeping the Soviet Union running when it comes to the weaponry and everything. Otherwise, it would have been even more difficult, if not impossible. But man, I don't know, the newspapers are a bit strange to me. I feel like everyone around me is disappearing, says Gustl Kleiner during tonight's meeting. I miss my brother. Well, not exactly. He was drafted into the army just like that. He was gone. And so many other young men have been drafted too. Sorry, your brother was sent to the war. At this rate, there won't be any young men left in Germany. I mean, you know, that is... It took so long. 10 to 20 years to get literally everyone home. To, like, actually get every soldier that served in the war, you know, became a prisoner of war home into Germany. It was a very, very long period, and this is why there's this famous term, Trümmerfrauen, right, which is the rubble women, the women of ruins, because they had to rebuild it. They were the ones left in the cities after the capitulation, seeing as the men were still in prisoner camps, and indeed there won't be any men left. Alright, let's take a quick glance at this. I can see all the critical information, and that is... Oh, there's the truck, okay. How do we get to the truck? Man, there's so much that we need to unlock. Yeah, we definitely need the workshop. We desperately need the workshop right here. That is, without a question, I think. Let's set up the workshop right away. We don't need to do anything. It says extreme risk, but it doesn't have the risk thing here, so I don't think actually that there is any extreme risk. I'm just gonna put you in here because this shouldn't risk anything for you. Why don't we... Let's just do these individually. They unlock more people. Contact a forced laborer. Interesting. Our supporters in Weissen, they tell us about forced laborers in the area. One of them seems angry about the state of things. Let's get some money as well. I think that should be good enough. And you're gonna be... Convince our supporters friends, that's fine. Yeah, okay, this looks decent enough to me. Some of these could get some heat points here, but I think we'll be fine. I hope so, at least. When I enter my workplace, I find a note on my desk to see my boss in his office immediately. Go to the office. I knock at Mr. Hess's door. Here and through the door. Come in. Mr. Hess is a bald, middle-aged man, sits behind his desk and looks at me over the rim of his wire glasses. Mr. Book, thank you for coming so quickly. Please take a seat. Mr. Book, how long have you been working for us now? 8 years. Yes, I'm sure you are wondering why I called you in here. I do indeed. Why did you call me in here? As you know, our great fatherland is at war. We're finally fighting our arch enemies, the Bolsheviks. This sounds like a tricky topic. Yes? Did you listen to the Führer's speech last week? This is getting even trickier. Of course I didn't listen to it. It was moving, sure. Right? I think so too. As the Führer explained in that great speech, we have reached the Endkampf. The German people have arrived at their destiny, and now is the time to fulfill it. Providence has sent us a Führer to lead us to our destiny. The fights against the Bolsheviks, the Jews, and the subhumans is our destiny, and we need to fulfill it, he continues. And this is why he called me in. Well, the Führer said that we all have to make sacrifices in order to help fulfill this glorious destiny of ours. All of us. Even the Führer is making sacrifices, as he said in his speech. Is he using that as a reason to fire me, to lay me off? What is your sacrifice? I have led this company for more than 25 years. I have been here every single day, never sick, not one day. It's my sacrifice. I'm also dedicated to my work, as you know. Sure. I know you have been doing a good job too, Mr. Book. No question about that. And I wouldn't ask you for a sacrifice if it wasn't absolutely necessary, and for the greater good, for our German destiny. Why is it that you want me? What is it that you want me to do? We need to cut your wage by 20%. I guess that is what the newspapers were talking about, but I like this. See, I don't think the newspapers would mention it, but I think it would still happen like this. But again, it might have been mentioned in the newspapers. There's a good chance, I guess, that it could have been mentioned. But to prepare people, you know, to be ready for the war economy that is to follow, for the years of not being able to have so many goods and, you know, services that they were used to, but my wage by 20%. But how do you expect me I live then? Situation right now might look good, but as the Führer said, we need to plan ahead for a wartime full of privation. Right. I'm afraid there is no other solution. But this is not right. Think of the Führer's words. Everyone has to contribute, he says. With this wage cut, there will be difficult times ahead, and I can't shake the feeling that all this talk about Germany's destiny is simply an opportunity for my boss to increase his profits. Not that there will be much left of it after the war, seeing as Berlin will be entirely bombed out. Okay, so I think if I do hide here, this can fail. Let's just do hide, okay, for once. Had to abort the mission. Yeah, okay. So I think Hide will never get you seen, but hide could also just abort the mission. Dude, screwed. I'm enforcing. Get out of here, witness. Yeah, I don't like... I honestly would rather take the heat of enforcing. I feel like that is almost always the optimal gameplay decision. Because if you enforce, you can just send them... You know, you have enough weeks, right? You can just send them into hiding. Alright, we made some more money. Everybody's been seen, apparently. Coastal Kleiner rents a remote garage in Lichtenberg. We can use it to set up our own workshop where we print leaflets and build equipment for our mission. We might have yet another week in the hideout, but we'll see. I swear to God, if he's seen, everybody's seen at this point. Alright, we did it. We are losing morale, though. That is new. We've never had a morale problem in this entire game, but it seems a bit more... difficult to maintain our morale here. Alliance offered to Japan. Berlin, the Führer, offers the Japanese government an alliance for the annihilation of the USSR and the USA. Isn't this a bit early? Isn't this more a post-Pearl Harbor thing? Like, they already had an alliance, right? They already had an alliance, the Tripartite Pact. I guess it's more... Honestly, I feel like the newspapers are more there for people that aren't at all informed about, you know, what was going on there, to showcase, hey, they work together. Don't forget about this, because it will matter when Pearl Harbor happens. Rogatchow and Schlobin fallen. The Soviet Red Army recaptures the cities of Rogatchow and Schlobin and defeats the occupying Wehrmacht divisions. Submarines and planes instead of tanks. Hitler orders to focus on building submarines and aircrafts. He continues the war against the Soviet Union as one. Considers the war against the Soviet Union as one. I have somebody who needs our help, says Arthur Friedrich as he enters the room. The child of a friend of mine was diagnosed with epilepsy, and the Nazi doctors want to send her to one of their atrocious racial hygiene hospitals. Do you know what that means? Yeah, those hospitals, even very, very early on, were just euthanasia, you know, was killing machines, of course. Nobody comes back from those hospitals. They were actually, it was indeed exactly that. We must help the child and her parents, says Arthur nervously. I can't abandon my friend at a moment like this. You know, Arthur has supported us. We will find a solution. Arthur has supported us for so long. I honestly don't understand how people can support such things. What does it mean to be human if you murder those who need your help and can't protect themselves? A classic Christian point of view, I would argue. Are you the family? Yeah, find hideout for family. Family with an ill child is in danger and needs our help to avoid euthanasia. What do we need here? Empathy. Jeez, we're all bad at empathy, you know that? I think I'm gonna go with Arthur Friedrich just because I like the optics of it. I like the idea, you know? I'm still gonna take him with me. I don't know, maybe this is just too risk. I don't know. There's no risk and preparation scale there anyway, so we'll have to find out. Alright, with that being said, we could have a party, but I think that is okay. I think we're gonna send people into the hideout. We now have this workshop, right? We now have the hideout over here. We are... What is this? Set up a hideout. Oh, we can have multiple hideouts. And this is just on the map now. I seriously don't know what it actually properly means. I'm gonna bring all of you down to 0 heat, sure. Alright, look, we're skipping a lot of weeks, and I actually, like, the more I go on, you know what? Maybe I can't afford this. Maybe I can't afford to do this. Because we're already at week 16, and we haven't really done anything when it comes to achieving the things that we're targeting here. Let's do the observe army activities. Anne Jansen works in a pub not far away from the barracks. Alright, let's take a look here. Yeah. Oh, that's risky. I think Guido Book would have a pretty good chance here, but... You know what? I'm gonna cheese the system in the way that I think it is cheesable. I'm gonna send someone that has heat. Just because there is no preparation and danger thing here. Johanna and Guido, you should be good at this. Alright, let's unlock the first Steel and Army uniform mission. We need to make books. Okay, we need to make books if we want to steal this uniform. Where's the third uniform? It's right over here. And that is related to leaflets, meaning we definitely need paper. Alright. Yeah, honestly, I don't think we can constantly send them into hiding. We need to be more aggressive with this. Looks risky to me, but you gotta go with it. Okay. If I understand it correctly, of course, the entire hide and enforce mechanic, then we're gonna weigh that very cautiously. Visits a pub in Kreuzberg where the soldier of a nearby barrack spends a lot of their free time. Someone's getting suspicious. I'm enforcing. I don't have time. Yeah, we've been seen, but that's okay. That's just one person being seen. Arthur Friedrich brings a family with a disabled child to a befriended priest outside of Berlin. The priest promises to hide them and to make sure they won't be harmed. Gustl thinks he has been seen. It's raining lightly, but the air is still warm as I walk to the movies for my secret meeting. I'm the only customer in line at the ticket booth. The film already started. No, they're still showing the Wochenschau. The Wochenschau being, of course, the news, where you know, it's essentially like a quick news program, but it runs in the cinema because nobody has a TV. I mean, TVs weren't a thing. TV, home units, that is. 1 ticket, please. Pay for the ticket and enter the movie theater. The room is nearly empty. Just a handful of people trying to sit as far away from each other as possible. Most of them are in the back, some in the middle, no one in the front. See, when you have a secret meeting, you usually don't want to sit in the front because, can't, you know, supervise anything. Far away from everyone else, I take a seat in the front row. The Wochenschau, the official news magazine, is showing reports of victory from the Eastern Front. Grinning soldiers, humming cannons, and burning buildings. All very similar to the Western Front a year ago. Someone takes a seat behind me and whispers, "Don't turn around." I keep looking at the screen where Hitler's honoring a general for his achievements. "It's good you came," she says from behind. I recognize that voice. It's Hannah. I met her in Paris in 1936. Back then she was trying to convince me to work with the Soviets. Seeing her now working as a Soviet agent doesn't come as a surprise. The movie starts. It's a romantic comedy called Happiness is for Everyone. Good to see you again. You are mistaken. I never met you before and I've never been to Paris. Do you understand? Sure. Good. Listen. Hitler's campaign in the East is very different from the one in France. People need to be told about this. On screen, Albert Schumann and Irmi Pfahl, an engaged couple, are arguing about his sluggish career. How's it different? This is not a war in which soldiers fight each other. This is a war against the Red Army, against all civilians. We're still in the process of proving that this occurred under official orders, but since it keeps happening in the same way, I think that it is. People in Germany need to learn about this. Have you been there? Yes, I have. 1 week after the German attack, I was part of a Red Army squad. We were defending a village, but we didn't stand a chance against the Wehrmacht. I managed to escape, but the rest of my squad was taken prisoner. How could you escape? Doesn't matter. What's more important is what happened next. Alright, what happened next? A German officer had them line up on the main road. He spoke to his soldiers and told them that these people were thoroughly Bolshevized, that they were subhuman and had to die. The prisoners were forced to get on their knees. I mean, they obviously killed them. If you haven't seen it, Generation War is a very interesting set of films that shows this as well, from the perspective of a German officer, but it's a very interesting set of films. On screen, Albert Schumann mimics an excessively lazy employee. The audience laughs. The officer pulled his pistol, stood behind each prisoner and shot them in the head, one by one. The officer was SS, I assume. This was just the regular Wehrmacht. There was no SS. I know what they look like, says the woman who insists she's not Hannah. On screen, Naomi tries to convince her mother that Albert will make a good husband. I will say I like the artistic choice here, where they, you know, choose this very normal, this very, we want to go back to a civil life kind of experience on the screen, but what they're telling us about is a war crime. And a war crime that later on would oftentimes be diminished, or be attempted to be diminished by people that, you know, told the story of the clean Wehrmacht, of the saubere Wehrmacht. But of course, that story, not exactly true. How did you survive? On screen, Irmi and Albert get married. I waited for the soldiers to leave the village and then secretly followed the German troops eastwards. I was hoping to get to the front to reunite with my troops. Did you get there? I came through a settlement where an old man and his wife hung from a tree. The Germans had put a sign around their necks to warn the others never to cooperate with partisans. From then on, I saw people hung from trees in almost every village I passed through. Are there many partisans fighting against the Wehrmacht? Maybe. It's a strategy of the Red Army to fall back behind enemy lines and attack their blind side, but what I know for sure is that for every dead German soldier, the Wehrmacht murders dozens of innocent civilians, out of revenge and cruelty. You must be mistaken, even the Wehrmacht has a code of honor. I think that is something that Guido Buch would definitely say. I mean, he knows people from the Wehrmacht. Everybody in Germany did, right? Would be difficult to believe such cruelty. Waffen-SS and task forces follow the regular troops, but the Wehrmacht does its part, believe me. On my journey, I came through a village that seemed to be entirely empty. First, I thought the villagers had all fled. No, they didn't flee. They were still there. Robert Schumann, now happily married, has become even lazier at work, which sparks hysterical laughter in the cinema. Where were they? I found them in a pit nearby. The Wehrmacht had shot them and thrown them in a dirt hole. All of them. Men, women, children alike. On the screen, a confused Albert Schumann is being bribed by his boss. The audience bellows with laughter. They tried to burn the bodies, but the damp weather foiled them. What did you do? I went through the pile to see if there were any survivors. It was awful. It reeked of burnt flesh and decay. Grew up several times. In the end, it was all for nothing. They had killed everyone. That can't be true. It is true. This is not a regular war. This is not like France. These troops have not come to conquer and rule. They have come to annihilate. Their enemies aren't just the soldiers, their enemy is everybody, including the innocent villagers. See, I just want to say that I think it would be much better had the newspaper said nothing of this. Instead, they talked about a massacre by the German forces, you know, that sort of stuff. If they instead had held up the other image, the image that Germany wanted to portray at the time, it would have made such more, it would have been such more impactful to now hear this story, right? It's, I don't know. But yeah, the cruelty of the war in the East, even the war against Poland, just for the record, the war against Poland already was insanely cruel, much more cruel than the war against France, when it comes to how civilians were treated. But the war in the East against the Soviet Union was certainly something else. What's the purpose of this? Don't you get it? This has always been Hitler's goal. He wants to exterminate the Slavs and the Jews, to rid the East of all subhumans, to create a home for his Aryan race. I didn't think they would really do it. No, almost no one thought they would. But I knew she was right. Even in Mein Kampf, the book Hitler wrote almost 20 years ago, he'd already planned out what Hannah was describing now. On screen, Ermi saves her husband's career, and Albert seizes his second chance. What can I do? The world needs to know about this. If we could find the official order which proves that this isn't some mercenary Wehrmacht squad committing war crimes on its own initiative, we need to prove that this was officially ordered from above, that this is systematic. I'm not sure we are capable of finding a secret Wehrmacht order, but we will try. Thank you. If you manage to find the official order and put it in the right hands, it might change the course of the war. On screen, the plot has cleared its final hurdle. Ermi and Albert's accidental divorce, and is now heading toward a happy ending. You mean America would join the war if they knew? Maybe. I need to go now. Contact me through the usual means if you learn anything. And then she's gone. On screen, the happy couple decides to remarry. On my way home, I think about the atrocities that Hannah told me about. Would it be true? I trust the Nazi to commit almost any crime, but full-scale genocide? If the order Hannah was talking about exists, it would clarify things. That's written in such an interesting way, because he's been in the resistance, he's seen what they've done the entire time. And it could easily be pointed out as, you know, that is kind of a character issue, right? Like, that is a poorly written character. But then again, don't you convince yourself, even if you fight against something, that something can't be that bad? Don't you think to yourself, maybe the new status quo, you know, is bad, of course, but it can't be that bad, right? It can't do these sort of things. Unimaginable. It's an interesting character trait in Guido Buch. That he would believe, you know, that there's one thing that people would stop at, being the genocide, the shooting of civilians at any occasion. But of course he's wrong. Finding the order could change everything, not only for us, but for the entire world. Hannah wants us to bring her intel to prove that the war crimes happening in the East are ordered and not happening spontaneously. Finding the order could change everything. Right, we've already seen that. We lost supporters, we lost morale. Wehrmacht defeats 13th Soviet Army. The 2nd German Army defeats the 13th Soviet Army near Mogolyev. More than 23,000 Soviet soldiers are taken prisoner of war in Germany. Airstrike on Moscow. The Luftwaffe flies 2 consecutive days of attacks against Moscow and drops over 80,000 incendiary bombs. Great German Art Exhibition opened. Munich. Reich Propagandaminister Joseph Goebbels opens the 5th Great German Art Exhibition. Artworks by 647 National Socialist artists are shown. I can clearly see that Johanna S. is angry when she comes into our meeting. What are you angry about? To hell with Hitler. Damn the Nazis and their goose-stepping stooges. I can't believe we've all been dragged into this war. A curse on anyone who fights on their behalf. Gustl Kleiner shoots up from his chair. Stop right there. Yeah, let's just remain calm. I don't even know what's going on. No one pays any attention to me. Gustl continues. I hate the Nazis just as much as anyone, but when you curse everyone in the army, you're cursing innocent men who were forced to fight. They are our fathers, our sons, our brothers. Innocent? They're killing innocent men and women all over Europe. For what? I mean, they both kind of have a point, but also not. Because, of course there were people in there that didn't believe it. Of course there were a lot of people that didn't believe it. And people that didn't, you know, shoot prisoners of war, which is a war crime, just for the record. There was many cases that were like that. But at the end of the day, we shouldn't... I mean, it's a weird debate, obviously. Curse the Wehrmacht, right? It's such a weird mental exercise to have during the war, I feel. I guess we'll go with Gustl is right. I mean, not everybody's wrong, but let's not frame that as, you know, that everybody is right. We're all here at this meeting for the same reason, to resist the Nazi regime. But to hate everyone in the Wehrmacht means hating our own families. How can we do that? Speak for yourself, says Johanna and storms out. I do not want to lose Johanna. Johanna is our best person here. Could theoretically do this now, although we would need to be better prepared. I think I'm going to leave this for the later weeks. But either way, I want to thank you for tuning in again. We are in the year 1941 and Germany is at war with the world. I want to thank the members of the channel that are making this series possible, namely the Barons Aaron, Stefan, the Richest, T. Snywolf, Emma Mamello, Thomas and Lochlin. Then of course also the Counts, Kermelik 2, Shifty, Ixum the Naughty, and Wombat, and last but not least the Dukes, Suspicious Dark, Benedict, Nathan, Knight of Squires, Kenneth, Lexo, Roboman, My Dad Left Made Arby's, and Eric and Aiden. And I will see you in 2 days on Wednesday when we return to this. What do you think? Should we go for Frozen Lightning or should we go for Safe Passage? I'm slowly but surely going towards Frozen Lightning because we would reveal this, right? Years. I mean, the V1 was in 1942, and the V2, if I'm not mistaken, was 1943, and the V2 was the first one, was truly a weapon of destruction. So I think this might actually have like a huge impact on the war, although I don't know if in this game there can be a huge impact. But either way, I will see all of you guys later. 8 Alligator.